Hello there, how are you, Zimbabwe? So there's this video, audio actually, that claims to be Hopewell Chinono speaking to some supposedly a CIO Zanu PF agent that is supposed to have been leaked, all right? And I hear that Hopewell Chinono is refusing that is not his voice. First of all, I think it is Hopewell's voice. Number two, I don't think Hopewell you should deny because the thing that he says they are correct, are true. You should stand for them. You should repeat them out and loud to the whole world. I guess if you didn't listen to that video, I don't know where you can find it, but I heard it from one of the YouTube channels. Uh, well, one of the things that probably anger some people is that he said that National Chamisa is incompetent and there is a need for another party, another opposition party. So these are the things that are in the heart of Hopewell that he believes. Okay, and it's true. Chamisa he will never take us to the promised land, Zimbabwe. He is loved by people, granted, and I do understand that there are some people who are against ZANU PF who think that, who believe and rightfully believe so that being united somewhere, having a camp, even though we have got differences, having a camp that is opposed to the ruling elite, we have got a chance of delivering, like deliverables. But as far as the Zimbabwe situation has been concerned, it's been like that since the year 2000. Since Morgan Tsvangirai, the GNU, going to Chamisa. My assessment of Chamisa is that he's a CEO agent himself. He's a ZANU PF agent, as ZANU PF as they come. He was brought in to arrest the revolution. You see, the elite in Zimbabwe are very smart. One way they manage to keep power is, first of all, is by holding the opposition. You understand? You need to make sure that the opposition is on your side. That is why when they were getting rid of Morgan Tsvangirai, they had to get a guy that they like, the guy that is going to be pro-ZANU PF. Even though he will claim to be in opposition, even though he will claim to be against ET or ZANU PF, but it's actually on their side. As we can see, even the way that Initial Chamisa ascended into power in the MTC, it wasn't democratic. It was, there's a lot of violence that was involved, a lot of pushing him in there. Now, what am I saying? I'm trying to show you something. I don't want to blame it, or I'm not praising it or blaming it. I'm just showing you something that the elite in Zimbabwe, how the elite has kept their power. And by the way, all elites do the same. It's not Zimbabwe. It's not exclusive to Zimbabwe. And perhaps the elite are right to do so. Perhaps the elite were right to do so, to capturing MTC by putting their leader, Nelson Chamisa, who really he made money through working. We know the contracts that he had with the Robert Mkabe's dairy farm, and we know the contracts of the MTC people that they've had defending the ZANU PF people. We know that stuff. You know that, really, right? But why are you ignoring it? But why don't you see that it shows you that the elite has already not only had the stronghold on ZANU PF, but the elite have got a stronghold in the opposition. So for us to transition Zimbabwe forward, let me tell you, Zimbabweans, I know you may not like this thing, but to transition Zimbabwe forward is not to fight the elite. Okay. The Zimbabwean elite, the Zimbabwean political, military establishment will not be dismantled, cannot be dismantled. You can have transitional governments. You can have one government to the other. But however, the core of the ruling elite will by and large remain the same as it is in all countries and as it has been historically. What changes are actually little details. A few people who die or they get off, or a few people who come into that picture. But however, the change of leadership is something that's going to be initiated by the ruling elite. So now, I want you to look at Chamisa from a different perspective. He is not just an opposition leader that is going to remove ZANU PF. At least that's what the elite wants the Zimbabweans to think. And I agree with the elite, they are right. Speaking as a political strategist, it's a good strategy. to have as the ruling elite, to have your ruling party, which is Zanu PF. You also have an opposition, which is MTC or Triple C right now, led by a guy that we have chosen. Even though the people might have wanted someone, Thokozani Kopi was supposed to take over, but okay, as the elite, you used whatever you used, whatever gimmicks you used to have your boy in there. And the reason why we have your boy in there is not for him to take over power from Emerson, but he is actually a, what do you call it, an insurance policy, just in case the ruling elite are really fed up of ED. Okay, so ED doesn't really have all the power in Zimbabwe. Okay, he's just a face for the ruling elite. Just like Robert Mugabe didn't have all the power in Zimbabwe. He was just a face for the ruling elite. If Robert Mugabe had all the power, the coup was not gonna happen. The coup happened because the ruling elite, the shadow government, as you might want to call it, or you wanna call it the deep state, or I don't know what you wanna call it. Okay, give it any name. Or, or you can call it the swamp or something like that, whatever. But they are the ones who really call the shots in any country. So what am I saying? I am saying that Hopel Chinedo was right. It was the right call to say that National Chamisa will never really deliver. Because at the end of the day, if we get deeper into it, it's not about National Chamisa. It's about the ruling establishment. If we as Zimbabweans, okay, which I'm gonna get off a tangent a little bit. I just say that if we as Zimbabweans want to find freedom, this is what we must do. But there is no we as Zimbabweans, because we as Zimbabweans are dead as a dodo. We do not know what's happening. All we wanna do is just to get jobs. So so at the end of the day, the ruling elite will do what the ruling elite will do. Even the political discourse is determined by the ruling elite. What is in the newspapers and TV is the ruling elite. Who is opposing and what they're saying is in the eyes of is in the forte of the ruling elite. So when the ruling elite finally has mercy on the Zimbabweans, because that's the only thing that's gonna work, it's just mercy. There's nothing, absolutely zero, that the Zimbabweans can do, except if there's a global financial crisis. It hits hard in USA, in the Western world, and hits even worse in Zimbabwe, and some Arab Spring that's gonna break off in the part of this part of the world. Perhaps the ruling elite can be startled to do something. But in Zimbabwe, the ruling elite have discovered that Zimbabweans are very docile. There's nothing that the Zimbabweans can do. Okay, if they go to the streets, they just send their soldiers and the police, the Zimbabwe go back home. Okay, and how the ruling elite have done it in Harare. I was in Zimbabwe in December in January. I realized what they do now is the ruling elite now is buying off the Zimbabweans. If you are politically vocal or whatever, they buy you off. Okay, you see the guys in town who are driving on their feet, it's not theirs. They belong to the ruling elite. The money exchange is not their money, it belongs to the ruling elite. So the ruling elite has actually destroyed the nation. And the laws of economics are surely going to reach to a place where it's no longer going to be viable for the ruling elite to run a Zimbabwe that is failing. Okay, so the freedom of the country is gonna come when the ruling elite sees now that we cannot carry on like this. The ruling elite, are going to decide that okay, it do ABCD, and maybe it is going to refuse because he would think that because he's the president, all power belongs to him. Because him and his family and his friends and his co-workers. And if the ruling elite decide to say, okay, no, we are going to change, then the ruling elite will bring in something new. And Nelson Chamisa is somebody that has got the potential to be brought in by the ruling elite. So Nelson Chamisa can be brought in by the ruling elite when the time comes that they think that it is not viable to keep the ED government running. And that time would be when the situation is bad for the ruling elite, or the ruling elite see another opportunity. When the ruling elite sees an opportunity which is better than what they currently have, that's when they can decide that we want to change the country. All right. So what you're looking at now is the factors that can affect the ruling elite. Not to think that elections can bring any change, or Twangrai, or Chamisa can bring any change, or hating Zanu PF can bring any change. You see, this is how the ruling elite looks at Zanu PF. The ruling elite is not affiliated to the parent Zanu PF for the love of Zanu PF. No, 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 no. The elite are affiliated to their money. So politically speaking, whatever is going to bring Zimbabwe forward is going to be something that is going to help the ruling elite to keep their money, to make their money better, which is where I think really there's an opportunity, and that the ruling elite has to be offered a proposal by us that can help them keep their money better and keep their power better, keep their relevance better. What do I mean by that? Right now, they have got all the money because they're making all the money from the gold industry, other minerals, and all the other industries because they've got a stronghold on the government. And because of their monopolistic nature, they have crowded out the rest of the Zimbabweans such a way that the economy is serving the few to the detriment of everybody else. But the few do not have an incentive to help everybody else. Why should they do so? They are self-seeking by nature. Okay, they probably believe that if you and I also are part of that ruling elite, we will do the same thing. To them, it's like a God-given gift that, oh my God, I can't believe it. I mean, the ruling elite of Zimbabwe. I must as well plunder the opportunity for as long as I can because I do not know when this thing is going to end. So the ruling elite has got no incentive whatsoever. Okay, hear me very well. They've got no incentive whatsoever to help the rest of the Zimbabweans. Just like the rest of the Zimbabweans themselves, had they had the opportunity to be part of the ruling elite, they also would not care about the rest of the Zimbabweans. So you see what I'm saying, that it's not a ZANU-PF problem. This corruption thing, it's not like ZANU-PF is corrupt. No, it's a human problem. All human beings are like that. So what needs to be done now is when those human beings that are the ruling elite, they need to be given space and time. And I guess this is what God is going to do because no man can do it. God himself is going to change the conditions of the country. When God is no longer angry with Zimbabwe, because another dynamic to this thing that God is angry with the Zimbabweans. That is why He gave them ET. That is why He gave them Robert Mugabe. That's why He gave them ZANU-PF. If God is angry with the people of the country, He gives them a paid leader, and that is His will. The day God is happy with the Zimbabweans, He will give the country good leaders and good leadership. For that to happen, what I'm saying that conditions must change. All right. The conditions that must change are the ones that will bring a smooth transition. Okay, smooth transition from where we are right now, where the economy is serving the few, to a place where the few who are being saved by the economy have been attacked so much that their living conditions are dire, and therefore they need to negotiate a better deal. Just like the apartheid South Africa. You see, ZANU-PF right now in the ruling elite and the apartheid South Africa in the 80s and 90s before 1994 are in the same bracket. They really are the same. There's no difference. It's not about being black or white. It's not about racism. It's about opportunity, being in a place of privilege. Right now, ZANU-PF, the few guys in ZANU-PF who are the ruling elite are extremely privileged. Just like the apartheid guys in the 90s, they were extremely privileged. But because of global pressures that are highlighted at the apartheid system in South Africa, the unfairness, they had no choice than to take Mandela from prison and make him a leader and negotiate a system of governance that's going to help the black people to self-rule, self-govern, open opportunities for the rest of South Africans while keeping also the opportunities for the white people as well. So this is the same thing that ZANU-PF has to get to a place where pressure has to be exerted from the international front. So I am happy with the Al Jazeera episodes because now Al Jazeera represents the fight from the international community. It's not about listen. Don't listen to this propaganda saying white people, these Americans, they hate Zimbabweans. No, it's a lie. Okay, if white Americans hate black people, white Americans were not going to remove white South Africans from power and hand over power to Nelson Mandela for the sake of black people improving. You understand? When 1994 happened in South Africa, it was because America itself, full of white men, okay, white Republicans and white Democrats, white people, all right, totally privileged people, removing other privileged white men, the Boras and the Englishmen that rule South Africa, and facilitated for a black person. So this narrative that USA hates Africa, white people hate black people, no, it's a lie. It only Zanu PF uses it when it comes to a place whereby they want to defend their loot. Okay. I'm not saying that there has never been racism from white people against black people. It has been historically, that is true, undeniable. But however, we cannot throw a blanket and say all white people hate black people and all white people always want to destroy black people. That's a lie. Sometimes actually white people just go and see even other white people. I'm just talking about South Africa whereby the white Americans helped to facilitate the removal of the white government. Their own kids and kings, they look the same language, they are all white, they are all privileged. But they say, no, you whites are destroying these black people. We're gonna help Mandela to lead his black people. So in the same breath, when white Americans come and help Zimbabwe and they remove the black government in Zimbabwe or facilitate for a transition for another black government that is going to be conducive, for the future of Zimbabwe. It's not a matter of them being racist or hating Zanu PF because Zanu PF are black people, but that is just a lie. No, 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 no. It's a matter of the fact that the global citizens have got humanity in them. They've got a heart. So if Al Jazeera and the rest of the forces from outside can rally up the cause of the suffering majority of Zimbabweans, because the reality of the nature that the majority of the suffering Zimbabweans have got a real cause. There is a real cause. Okay. But I did say earlier on that the ruling elite, whether it's in Zimbabwe or anywhere, do not have within themselves, I don't know whether it's an innate problem, they don't have within themselves the ability to feel sorry for the rest of the other people. So they feel like they have to keep on destroying people forever, until Jesus comes. So the international community plays a crucial role in sending the message to the NPF that enough is enough. Right now, you need to build an economy that works for everybody else. So if the international community puts enough pressure, so you get people like Hopewell who go around the world speaking against the ZANU-PF government, and some people say that when he is speaking, advocating for sanctions, he's actually destroying the country and stuff like that. That is debatable, but at the end of the day, Hopewell has to do it because he has to rally people. Okay, the international community, that's powerful because here is the balance of power. You have got at the bottom, all right, poor Zimbabwean who's got no power. On top, you have got a big Zanu of chefs. You cannot tell them anything. You cannot do anything with them. Nobody's got the power to remove them or to do anything. So at the end of the day, for these guys to get a real shaking, what you need another big guy, bigger than them, okay, bigger than them, who can shake things, up. So the Al Jazeera documentary is a very good development. We shake the corridors of power in Harare. It's like God is saying, okay, so I've given you all those 40 years to bless these people, to share the resources with these people, but you thought that they are fools because you were given authority. So what God does now to the ruling elite in Zimbabwe, he brings a bigger elite, the elite that the ruling elite in Zimbabwe cannot be able to fight against. So this is just the beginning of sorrows for ZANU-PF. And those beginning of those sorrows, as they mount over time, these are the sorrows that will facilitate a transition period, a place where the ruling elite will feel enough pain. Because as long as the ruling elite in Zimbabwe do not feel pain, they will never change the country. You can take that to the bank. They will never, ever, ever change that. So Hopewell, you are good. Go on, boy, go around the capitals of the world. Tell them what to tell them. Put pressure on the ruling elite. Okay, the weapon, the only weapon that we have as poor suffering Zimbabweans against the elite of Zimbabwe is the international community. Yes, indeed, I said it. It's the international community. It's white people. Yes, I said it. It is white people. The only weapons that we have as a suffering black underprivileged people is white Republicans, white Democrats. Oh yes, it's British. It's a British monarch. The very same people that colonized us for thousands of years. Those are actually our weapon to stand against those that are just above us, whom we give the opportunity to save us, to lead us into a place of prosperity. But however, they decided that, oh, Mandiba power, yes. Ah, this is like manna from heaven. Let me eat the whole country. Let me eat the whole country. I'm telling you, in Zanu PF, if they finish stealing all the gold and all the minerals, I'm telling you, they will sell even oxygen to the Zimbabweans. If it is possible, if there was a technology to sell oxygen or government to tax oxygen or to keep oxygen, Zimbabweans to breathe, you'll be paying them. They will do whatever it is to extract resources. They did it with the currency debasing when they've moved our currency from 1:1 with the US dollar to 1:1,000. That is actually a deliberate siphoning off of the wealth of the whole nation to the few. You understand? All of those things that they're doing, this taking money from the Reserve Bank and selling currency in the streets. That is the elaborate strategy of stealing the wealth of the whole nation, and they know it. And they know that no one's going to do anything to them because they are the authorities blessed by God. He was truly himself in heaven. Him himself, he is actually, his hands are tied. So therefore, for that authority to be shaken, you need another authority which is higher and more powerful, which is the international community. So progressive forces in Zimbabwe, it's high time that we need to partner with the international community, especially Washington. And I do believe that for Zimbabwe to get ahead, we need to pivot to Washington. We need to pivot to the global west and leave the global east, because the global east led by Russia and China are a group of countries that do not care about accountability and human rights, and therefore are actually involved in siphoning the wealth of all the citizens of those blocks. I mean, look at what they're doing in Zimbabwe right now. The gold mafia in Zimbabwe is helped by the Chinese and the Russians sponsored. They're in the same WhatsApp group, just destroying everybody else. And you are telling me that we must keep Zimbabwe in the purview of Moscow and Beijing? No ways, no ways. For us to have a society that works for us, we need to incubate our governance system, being incubated by real systems that have worked, which is the Western systems, taking back Zimbabwe to the United States and British. Understand? This is what is going to help Zimbabwe go forward. Thank you very much.